Okay, Nintendo Switch, charging issue. Port looks fine, but we're only putting uh, drawing power from one side of the port, and it's only drawing about 5.16 volts at 0.13 amp. But as I said, the port seems to be fine. So we might actually have a real troubleshooter here. It could just be a port issue too, but all the pins look okay. Let's switch you over so you can see. My focus is a bit off here. There we go. Yeah, all of our pins look okay. As far as I can tell, but we may still end up changing the port. First thing I'm going to do is disassemble enough to get to the battery. Then we'll test with my known good battery and see if we even get function at all. If we get function, well, actually no. Well, yeah, on this one, yeah. I have two in. I'm mixing them up here, but yeah, we'll disassemble. We'll get to the point where I can put my known good battery in and see if we have function at all with my known good battery that still has some charge in it. If we do have function, great. My experience with the ones that I don't end up with function, regardless if it has a charging circuit problem or not, so far I've not ended up too good. So having a good battery to test with is something I suggest you put in your arsenal. All right, let's get to disassembling. Be right back. Okay, we're ready for partial disassembly here. And we'll go over what you need to disassemble for the purpose of repair while we're doing this. You see lots of disassembly videos and teardowns. But in this case, we're just tearing down for the purpose of repair. And you don't need to tear down or unscrew everything to repair. Okay, first thing to note is there's a hidden screw under this leg and sometimes under an SD card. It's a Phillips head. You will not be able to get the back panel off without taking out that screw. Don't worry if you accidentally pop that off. It's pretty easy to put back on. And we have a partially bored out screw here, so I need my cheapo tri-wing. That one does not want to come out. Oof, a lot of them do. This feels like somebody's been in here before. Definitely bored out those screws a bit. I like the Weehaw driver best because it doesn't strip things. It's not too good with the already bored out screws. All right, something else to note. So those were the tri-wings. The ones on bottom and the one on top are non-magnetic, so you're going to have to be mindful when you take out and put back in these screws. All right, and the only screws you need from the rails is your center screw right here. Unless you have a rail problem. But Right now we're working on a board problem. Okay, back panel's ready to come off, like so. First thing I usually take off is the card reader. Taking off the back shield. It unplugs very easily. I arrange my things this way so I don't have to think about it much when I'm putting them together. Save the brain. Alright, so we're not going to do anything else but unplug the battery here. Unplug their battery. And try mine. Just to see if we can get it to boot up, if there's any functionality at all. Okay. Well, it blinked Nintendo. We do have an error, but that's not a big thing. Unplug the battery. At least it's not brain dead. We can work with this. So, we will continue disassembly because now we know we have a board problem, but it's not affecting functionality. So, I'm going to continue disassembling, and again, I'll show you what needs to be disassembled for the purpose of doing a board repair. Because again, not everything has to be disassembled here. Let's take the game out. Pokemon. And there are some hang-ups from pulling out the board that people who are new at this need to pay attention to. So when you're removing this, don't just pull up from here. You want to grab onto the heat pipe because it will bend while you're pulling it up these stickers. Those stickers can be stuck on pretty good. Don't worry about ripping them, it's not a big thing. Card reader is maddeningly delicate. This connector sucks. Nintendo, your connector sucks. It's very easy to damage. Very hard to align. It's not fun. Take it from somebody who's a couple things to know about it. One, very easy to damage that connector. Very hard to align that connector. do not mess with this thing with the battery plugged in. You will end up having to replace them. They cost anywhere from 27 to 37 bucks. It's not going to do wonders for your margin if you have to replace those things. Take it from somebody who knows and has had those issues. I am going to get rid of this thermal compound. We will be applying new thermal compound. So I'll get rid of it so I'm not constantly sticking my hand in it or my tools. Okay. Let's grab our fan. All right. So if, just in case you're wondering, I'm using some tweezers that I bent so that I can get around everything and just pull them out, including the speaker connectors. You got to be careful with them. You don't want to puncture the cables or anything, but it works for me. Now, this cable here, you've got to be very careful with. This connector, just like this connector, very easy to damage, very easy to bend pins in. You don't want to just go up under there and flick it out or some nonsense like that. You just want to push on these little tabs and very easily slide it out. Once it's out, no big deal. But don't be flaking it out or forcing it out because you will rue the day. It is not fun to have to unbend pins in that connector. Again, ask me how I know. Listen to me because I have made the mistakes for you. All right, that should be all screws and all cables. Nope, sorry. Forgot the port screws. That should be all screws and all cables. And our board is out. I'm going to close all the lids. All right, board is out. We'll get it under the microscope. We're going to do, first thing we're going to do is a visual inspection and see what's going on. Okay, let's do a visual inspection. I just want to look over the entire board and see if there's anything obvious going on. Broken chip, blown part. We will do measurements, but let's look for physically obvious things first. Port seems sound. Sometime this part here can come loose, and if it does, that port's done. Remove it. Our Nemesis connector is good. See anything blown on that side. Got one blown one of those the other day. Fortunately, I couldn't save that one. Got to deal with one of those before. This one does not have the diode arrays. Those can be problematic sometimes. And I am not seeing anything that jumps out to me here. So, time to do some measurements. We'll start around our M92. M92 T36. We'll connect our multimeter. Diode mode. Red on ground. So at this point, I'm choosing the port. And we'll start measuring it. This crap is on my. One of my caps I want to measure. Okay. 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 Alright, so this cap here is short. These three caps here are generally connected to the M92 chip. Oh, this one is short as well. Again, connected to the M92. Fine. Fine. Let's measure up here on this part of the charging circuit. Make sure our coil is good. Seems fine. Alright, everything seems alright up there. Alright, let's check around our P13 USB. Couple things I want to check. This big cap right here. Seems okay. Check our filters, our chokes. Or either way. Alright, everything seems okay there. One more choke I'd like to check. Actually, a couple. Check this guy here. Seems fine. And he seems fine. Okay. And that's what I generally do to troubleshoot a charging problem. Those are the caps and everything I measure. It appears right now that we have an M92 problem. M92 T36 chip problem. So, we will set up our board holder. Which I'm so going to put Loctite on those screws. The only thing I don't like about these board holders. And I love these boilers. That and lefty loosey, righty tighty is the exact opposite, honestly, of what you would think. This way. Okay. That took an excruciatingly long time. Okay. Make sure you're in focus. Definitely not. Okay. Why am I in focus but you're not? See if I can get my eyes in line with y'all's. There we go. My pieces are not aligned with your view. A little better than that. There we go. All right, and I need to get my 20 watt back onto the system. I now have 4 irons for this. Ooh, hello. Why are you giving me an error? Okay. I have 4 irons for this Weller WX2. I'm having to seriously consider giving me another base station. Come on. Okay. Grab my tweezers. Have my other ones ready. Wick ready. Alrighty? Alrighty. Folks. Reminds me I probably should order some more very soon. Green stuff is out. Okay, I think we're ready. Let's get our charger out of the way so we do not melt it. Let's go up first. So I do not scorch my hand. Which I do like, have a tendency to do. First, make sure the focus gets everywhere. Try to keep it in view. No promises. Starting to see wetting and pull. Right, I'm gonna do some prep. Let's add some flux. And we'll flood this with leaded. Lower the temperature of the solder. As much as we can. Definitely got the center pad flooded. Let's see if we get some more of these. Good. Good. Trim up my wick here a bit. Good and warm, and then just glide across. You don't want to force it across, you just kind of want to glide. If you're getting friction, you're doing it wrong. However, we will get friction on the center pad. There's not a lot we can do about it because it is very big pad. Nice thing is, it's very unlikely we're going to pull it. Alright. Good and good. We're going to clean all this old flux off and apply some new, and then we'll tin those pads. Good. Okay. Mic pencil. Solder down here, dude. Okay. I want that ball on the other side. Yeah, that's it. Alright, that's pretty good. Anybody see me do the Xbox retimer chip knows I don't put a big lump of solder on the middle. The fact that it's silver means it has solder on it already, and that's enough for me. And I'll show you my method for placing the chip. I've got a little micro bridge on one of these pins on. Let's make sure we have no more of those. Do what works for you. Some people put a glop of solder on it and just press it down and clean up the mess afterwards. I've tried that method. It just doesn't work for me. So this method works for me. All right, let me find a chip. That should be okay. We'll see if it's okay. Got an out of chips that I have not put on a board before. Uh-oh. And I have 2 chips here. Oops. I don't need 2 of them, just need 1. Let's go ahead and put the other one back up before we lose it. Not being able to get stuff from AliExpress really sucks right now. I had a bunch of these ordered and I never got them. I had to get a refund because the COVID thing started right after I ordered them. Alright, so to start with, I'm going to come in with very low airflow, same heat, which is almost max. These boards can handle it. Don't worry about burning these boards. You don't want to leave it on there forever, but I'm going to do this until we see some wetting and we see it grab hold of the chip. Starting to see some wetting. Push down a little bit. And now we're going to come in with the gas and finish it off. Shoot. Hold it down until it dries. Got a little loosey-goosey there with it, but I think we'll be alright. Alright, let's take a look. See if our alignment is decent. Seems alright. Seems alright. Oh, I'm looking at the wrong chip. That doesn't help. Seems alright. Seems alright. Seems alright. It actually looks pretty good too. I may not have to touch this one up. Okay. We will clean it off to a degree and do some measuring. Make sure I didn't put a shorted chip on there. And that will cause more damage and kill more other chips. Alright. Let's do some measuring. We will measure, not plug in anything in until we've measured. Now remember, these two were shorted before. They are no longer shorted. So that's a pretty good sign. Not the end all be all. I'm going to measure everything. Just make sure we don't have problems in any other areas again. All right. Let's do a quick test. Quick charger test. And then we'll do a serious clean off before I put it back in the housing. Assuming everything is functioning and we don't have to try another chip. Alright, switch to the bench. Alright, we're now getting 14.6 volts and we are powering up on this side. Let's try the other side. We want it to power up on both sides. And 14.6 volts on the other side. So, that's a good sign. Again, let's not get our hopes too crazy. It is not the end all be all, but a good sign. So, we're going to go to reassembly, and then we're going to assemble enough to test, and I'll walk you through assembling it enough to test. Okay? Be right back. Okay, we're going to reassemble enough to test. Function. You do not have to reassemble entirely to test function. Alright, so make sure your speaker cables are out, make sure your ribbon cables are out systematically. There's this Wi-Fi cable, the black one, that likes to hide under the board and cause issues. And then when it comes out, it wants to come all the way out. And the ribbon again. White Wi-Fi cable. I think that is power button. And grab the display cable. I believe it's a display cable. Everything out that should be. Everything is lined. Always make sure your C port is aligned first. Otherwise, you will be very sad once you get all these cables out and realize it's not aligned and you can't plug anything in. Alright, so I am going to put in the one black hidden screw, which is the one on the top of this board. It gets hidden by the card reader and the fan. The way I'm going to assemble this is in the way that will ensure I do not have to plug and unplug the card reader multiple times. It is a painful device to deal with, or probably the single most painful part of this board to deal with. And the less you have to deal with it when reassembling, the better. Unplugging and plugging it is a recipe for disaster. at least it has been for me. When you're putting this in, sliding in it, you should get no friction. It should slide in very easily, as long as you're doing it correctly. If you're getting any friction, stop and look at the pins inside there. It's much easier to unbend one pin than it is 5. And be very careful with the lid, because it sucks to put back on. If you ever knock off this lid, basically the only way to get back on is to knock off those 2 end tabs, because you'll never get it on otherwise. I got to spend a good hour of my night trying to get that thing back on one night. You will have these issues if you work on enough of these. I've worked on about, at this point, 45, I would say. I could do an exact count at some point, but I've worked on a lot of them. So, need your big ribbon there. Need both of these. You gotta have, even if you don't have the Joy-Cons plugged in, you gotta have the Joy-Con cables plugged in. It does not like it when it does not detect them. And you will get errors. Make sure they're all the way in, but don't be forceful about it. Speaker cable out the way. This guy likes to be a little bit tricky, so make sure he's in all the way. Okay, we're going. It is not necessary to plug in the fan for testing, but as I said, I'm going to do everything in my power not to have to deal with the card reader tester multiple times. So, if you do not want to have to end up unplugging and plugging in the card reader while you're testing, after you're done testing, assuming this test is good, then you need to plug in the fan, because the fan sits under the card reader. So I plug in the fan. Yes, it's more I've got to disassemble if things don't test out, but I would rather do that than plug and unplug the card reader multiple times when I don't have to. And if you can help it, don't drop your screwdriver on the dang machine, as I have done twice, at least twice, tonight. Alright, now for the not fun parts. Okay, I'm going to put the single screw on the bottom of the card reader, so that if you don't screw it down and you go to pick it up and look at the screen side, it wiggles, it'll pop that thing out. I'm going to take this over to the microscope and make sure I plug it in correctly, because I'm not going to sit there and mess with it forever. But I'll put it here on view. And get ourselves a nice close-up of this connector. Push up. Try to align. If you're lucky and you get a nice one, it'll click in, and you'll definitely be able to tell this one clicked in, and and I can tell it was plugged in. All right, back to bench 2. Okay, so this is everything you need to do a functionality test, except the battery. And in this case, we're going to plug in the battery. Card reader, big ribbon, I believe home button, could be backlight. I think that might be backlight. This one is a rail. Where are you going over there? Speaker's trying to get out of there. Anyway, sorry. Card reader, big ribbon, You do not need the fan, but I told you why I do the fan. These two ribbons, this ribbon, that's what is required for function. Now we're going to take it over the bench and give ourselves a functionality test. Spread out this rag. I don't want to put the screen on flux. Let's go to the bench. Take off my readers. All right. Charger. Plug in the battery. Okay. 14.7 at 4.8, and we have a battery logo. I suspect this thing is very dead, so we will have to let it charge. I could probably plug in my battery and make sure it has a functional. Yeah, let's go ahead and do that. Let's plug in my battery and make sure it functions, because we did get an error code last time. So let's go ahead and unplug their battery and grab mine. And just make sure we cleared that error. I'm thinking it was M92 that was causing the error, but one good way to find out. My battery has charge. There we go. We have full power up. That's awesome. Okay. We have full touch. That is good. That is all I need to know. Turn it off. Plug the charger. Make sure we'll test it on the other side. Go ahead and do it with my battery in. You always want to test both sides of these things. There could be some errors that, or some faults that cause half function. Okay, looks good to me. Power down. Unplug our battery and unplug their charger, or my charger. Pry tool. Plug their battery back in. Actually, we won't. I'm going to go ahead and reassemble this thing entirely, and then we'll perform some. We'll let it charge, then we'll perform some more tests. All right? We'll be back. Okay, as you can see, we're now testing on port. Our Joy-Cons are functional. I will show you both. I've checked internet. Internet's good. Everything seems to be functional. It's charging up good. We're at 14% now. It was completely dead, so it took a little while to charge up, but all good. Hope you learned something. Well, sorry, Lewis, I'm not trying to steal that from you. Hope it was informative. See you next time.